Every trader asks themselves this question at some point. Should I trade one asset, or many? It sounds simple, doesn't it? But behind that question hides everything about your trading future, your psychology, your patience, your focus, your growth. Because in that question lies another. Do I want to know a little about everything, or everything about one thing? The difference between those two is the difference between confusion and mastery. Every chart you open is a mirror, not of price, but of you. When you stare at gold, or the Nasdaq, or Forex market, you're not just watching the market. You're watching your own reflection, your greed, your fear, your confidence, your discipline. Some traders think the key to profit is to keep searching for a better asset. A faster market, a stronger trend, a more volatile move. But the truth is this. It's not the market that creates the profit. It's the trader who brings the mastery. The chart doesn't care who you are. It only mirrors how focused you are. New traders ask, what's the best asset to trade? They switch from gold to crypto, from Forex to stocks, chasing the next big move. But the best traders, they don't chase. They build intimacy with their market. They study its heartbeat. They learn how it breathes. They understand how it reacts when news hits, how it moves around London Open, how it behaves near big levels. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from trading 10 pairs. It comes from marrying one market until you understand its language. Because markets have personalities. Gold is wild and emotional. Forex is structured and measured. Bitcoin is impulsive and unpredictable. Your job as a trader is to find the one that speaks your language, and master its dialect. Let's walk back through time. Let's listen to the whispers of the giants who came before us. Jesse Livermore. He began as a teenager in bucket shops, no computers, no charts, just price quotes. He watched the same few stocks over and over again until he could feel their rhythm. He didn't diversify. He focused. He studied repetition until it became instinct. And he once said, "It never was my thinking that made the big money, it always was my sitting." He meant waiting, focusing, trusting the pattern to unfold. Paul Tudor Jones. A trader who turned focus into an empire. He didn't trade everything, he traded only when everything aligned. He said, "The most important rule of trading is to play great defense, not great offense." He understood that mastery of risk and timing, not market variety, was the key to longevity. Warren Buffett. Buffett isn't a short-term trader, but his wisdom speaks louder than any price chart. He said, "Diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense if you know what you are doing." The Oracle of Omaha teaches us this. If you know your market deeply, you don't need to trade another. Trading one asset creates depth. Trading many creates distraction. Depth gives mastery. Distraction gives mediocrity. You can't build emotional control on 10 battlefields. You must build it on one, until your instincts are stronger than your impulses. When you focus, you begin to notice what others ignore. You start to feel the market's breath, the moments it hesitates, the seconds it prepares to strike. You begin to think in probabilities, not in guesses. You begin to see what high-probability traders see: structure, flow, and rhythm. And that is how high profitability begins. Focus breeds patience. Patience creates timing. Timing builds consistency. Consistency creates confidence. And confidence is the foundation of profitability. That's the chain. That's the truth. When you master one market, you stop reacting, you start anticipating. You no longer trade because of emotion, you trade because of structure. You no longer chase profits, you let them find you through discipline. Modern traders live in a world of too much. Too many signals, too many pairs, too much information. But more does not mean better. It means noisy. It means unclear. If you're watching 10 markets, your brain splits in 10 directions. When one trade wins and another loses, your emotions twist and pull. Your focus fractures. Your judgment weakens. Remember this truth. The market rewards clarity, it punishes confusion. So ask yourself, would you rather trade 10 charts halfway? Or one chart masterfully? Finding your ideal market is like finding your rhythm in life. It's personal. It's intimate. It's emotional. Some traders love volatility, they want the wild dance of gold or NASDAQ. Others prefer the calm precision of Euro to US dollar or SPX 500. There's no universal best. The best market is the one that fits your temperament. If you are calm, patient, and analytical, slow-moving assets might fit you. If you are reactive, quick, and love energy, volatile assets might suit you. The right market should not exhaust you. It should flow with your nature. When your personality matches your market, trading becomes peace, not pressure. Patience, the rarest skill in trading. When you focus on one asset, you are forced to wait. You cannot hide behind other charts. You cannot escape boredom with new opportunities. And that waiting, that silence, teaches you something sacred. It teaches you control. It teaches you emotional balance. It teaches you the difference between activity and productivity. A professional trader knows. No trade is a position. And sometimes, the most profitable moment of the day is the one you didn't trade. Emotions are data. When you trade multiple assets, your emotional data gets mixed. One chart wins, another loses, your confidence swings. You can't tell if your edge works, or if luck is just dancing with you. But when you trade one asset, your emotional feedback becomes clean. You know exactly when you broke your rules, exactly what triggered your mistake, and exactly where to improve. Focus simplifies not just your charts, it simplifies you. Look at the legends again. Richard Dennis trained the turtle traders with one system, not hundreds. George Soros didn't hedge 100 markets, he focused his vision on one conviction. Stanley Druckenmiller said, "The best traders are patient enough to wait for the right moment, then they strike hard." Focus gave them confidence. Confidence gave them conviction. Conviction gave them profitability. History always rewards focus. What is a high probability setup? A high probability setup is a moment of alignment. When structure, liquidity, momentum, and timing breathe together. It's when the market whispers, not screams. It's when your patience meets opportunity. You can't recognize that moment by staring at 10 charts. You recognize it when you've watched one market long enough to feel its pulse. Every instrument has tells, micro habits that repeat. Once you've seen them 1,000 times, you know when the odds are with you. That's not prediction. That's intuition born from repetition. There is a stage in a trader's journey where focus evolves into flexibility. After years of mastering one market, you begin to see that all markets share patterns of psychology. At that stage, expanding to multiple assets becomes wisdom, not distraction. But remember, you earn the right to diversify only after you've mastered to specialize. A pianist must first master one instrument before conducting an orchestra. A trader must first master one asset before commanding multiple. Focus first. Then expand wisely. All mastery leads to simplicity. At the beginning, you think trading is about complexity, about indicators, systems, and formulas. At the end, you realize it's about clarity, patience, and rhythm. The greatest traders remove what's unnecessary. They trade with clean charts, clear rules, and quiet minds. Because success in the market is not about seeing more. It's about seeing clearly. So, my dear trader, listen carefully. The market will tempt you every day, every hour. It will whisper, "Look over there. There's a better trade. A faster win. A bigger move." But that's the market testing your discipline. You don't need 10 opportunities. You need one high probability setup, one that aligns with your system, your patience, your purpose. True mastery is not about trading more. It's about trading less, with more clarity. He who chases many markets, catches none. He who masters one, conquers all. Trade not to prove your worth. Trade to refine your awareness. Trade to become wiser, calmer, and sharper every day. And one day, when you've mastered that single market so deeply that it feels like part of your intuition, you'll realize something profound. You no longer trade the market. You flow with it. That is high probability. That is profitability. That is mastery. May your charts be calm. May your patience be strong. May your focus be unshakable. Because the trader who focuses deeply trades not just with his eyes, but with his soul. In the endless ocean of financial markets, there are countless waves: gold, forex, stocks, crypto, indices, oil, each one calling you to ride it, each one whispering, "Trade me, I'll make you rich." And yet, behind every true success story, behind every consistent trader, there's one truth that repeats itself again and again. Focus is the seed of mastery. When you choose to trade one asset, you choose to silence the noise. You choose clarity over confusion. You choose depth over distraction. You choose high probability over random excitement. Because every asset has its own rhythm. Gold breathes differently from euro to US dollar. Nasdaq reacts differently from oil. Each has a heartbeat, a pattern, a personality. And when you study one asset long enough, you begin to hear its voice. You begin to notice how it moves before news. You see how it reacts when fear rises in the market. You recognize its traps, its fake breakouts, its emotional manipulations. You stop reacting and start predicting. That is where specialization begins. That is where high probability trading is born. To specialize in one asset is to walk a sacred path of discipline. You stop chasing everything and start mastering something. You begin to study the same chart every day, morning to night. You see how the candles speak when volume is high, when liquidity is low. You know when your asset breathes and when it sleeps. And slowly, the market becomes a familiar friend. You start recognizing the rhythm behind the chaos. And that recognition becomes your edge, your invisible weapon, your confidence. Most traders lose not because they lack strategy, but because they never stay long enough in one place to understand the soil. They keep changing their battlefield before they learn how to fight. But you, my friend, you are different. You know that repetition builds intuition. And intuition builds high probability. Let me tell you something simple but powerful. A shallow river makes noise, but a deep ocean stays calm. Many traders jump between assets, chasing volatility, chasing excitement, chasing news. But the trader who trades one asset every single day becomes calm, patient, and powerful. Because they don't just see candles, they see stories. They see emotions, greed, fear, manipulation, hidden inside every movement. They can tell when buyers are losing strength, when sellers are exhausted, when liquidity is drying out. They no longer need 20 charts. They only need one truth, one pair, one connection. That's where profitability hides, not in the number of trades, but in the depth of understanding. When you understand your one asset deeper than others, you can trade less and win more. You stop gambling. You start anticipating. You stop forcing. You start flowing. That is the difference between a trader and a specialist. Between average results and high probability consistency. If you want to specialize, you must create rituals. Every morning, analyze your asset like a scientist. Ask yourself, what happened overnight? What zones are still strong? Where is the liquidity building? Mark your charts not with hope, but with logic, patience, and high probability setups. Every evening, reflect like a philosopher. Ask yourself, what did I feel today? Was I impatient? Did I follow my plan? Because trading one asset doesn't just teach you about the market. It teaches you about yourself. You begin to master your emotions, your impulses, your fears. And that's when trading transforms from a skill into an art form. Your chart becomes a mirror of your mindset. Your patience becomes your weapon. Your discipline becomes your advantage. That is the true power of focusing on one asset. So, what happens when you've already specialized? What if you've mastered your asset? You know every move, every fake out, every pattern it plays? Should you move on to another asset? Should you explore something new? The answer, my friend, is found in your purpose. If your goal is to become a master of consistency, if your dream is to reach higher profitability, then stay. Stay with your asset until it gives you everything it has to teach. Stay until your precision turns into instinct. Stay until your confidence becomes calm. Because the deeper your relationship with one asset, the higher your accuracy, and the higher your probability of success. But when your skill, patience, and psychology become unshakable, when you can read one market like reading a book, then, and only then, you may diversify. Not because you're bored, but because you're ready. You move into a second asset not as a beginner, but as a master expanding your territory. You carry your discipline, your focus, your risk control, and you apply the same mastery everywhere you go. That's how true professionals grow. They don't jump, they expand. Remember this truth. You don't need more markets. You need more focus. You don't need more strategies. You need more discipline. You don't need more excitement. You need more clarity. Because high profitability doesn't come from how many pairs you trade, but from how well you understand your chosen one. One asset is enough to make you financially free. One asset is enough to make you disciplined, consistent, and powerful. One asset is enough to change your life, if you give it your undivided attention. And the market will reward that focus. Because markets don't pay the distracted. They pay the dedicated. So be the dedicated one. Be the calm one. Be the high probability trader who knows their market like no one else does. When you master one asset, you are not just mastering charts. You are mastering yourself. You learn patience. You learn emotional control. You learn to wait for the high probability setups. You learn that success is not about how many trades you take, but how many you skip. You learn that the biggest profits are made by those who are not desperate to trade, but disciplined enough to wait. And when you reach that stage, you no longer fight the market. You flow with it. You don't panic when price moves. You understand why it moves. You don't fear drawdowns. You know they are temporary shadows. Because your foundation is strong. Your focus is sharp. Your confidence is unshakable. And your trading becomes peaceful. That is what it means to be a master of one asset. So, what is the best path for you? The advice is clear: start with mastery, then expand with purpose.